I'm Kingsley, and today we'll be talking about the five proven ways to solve problems with your spouse. As you may have found out, solving problems in a marriage is not an easy undertaking. Some people thought that, when I get married and we would just begin to work things through and solve all the problems we need to solve. But then they have this surprise, all of a sudden are more, they find themselves mired down in problems and just not seeming to be able to get out of it, right? Most times, instead of solving problems, you find yourself sinking into more and more problems. And this may not be your fault. It is something that you probably is have found yourself in because of the situation, whatever is going on in your marriage that you may have no control over. Now, try as you may, you're going to encounter some kind of problems. There's no way that you're going to go through this marriage without having some problems. That is part of the growing up, maturing aspect of marriages. And it's designed basically to work through together with your spouse so that you can have a better version of yourself. It's really for you as well to grow and to develop and to become a more managed, self-aware kind of individual. Marriage should do that for you. Now, when you find yourself getting deeper and deeper into problems, the thing is, the key is finding a way to solve them as quickly and constructively as possible. Unfortunately, that's not what most couples experience. Instead of solving these problems and finding solutions, they tend to dig themselves deeper in a hole. So we'll be talking about then this in a few moments, because the question is, how do we do that? How do we move from problem centric kind of behavior or marriage, or problem saturated marriage, to more solution focused? From problem focused to solution focused. How do we do that? That's what we'll be talking about in this video today, on helping you in this continued way of marriages. But let me say that if you're hearing me for the first time and is wondering who am I to be speaking on topics like this one, let me just say I'm Kingsley Grant, and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified relationship coach, having counseled and coached hundreds of couples over the past several years, and having been married for being married basically for over 3 decades. I think I'm pretty qualified to talk about topics like this with confidence, and I hope you will kind of come to that conclusion, even though that's not the focus of what I'm trying to make a case for. Is simply just to let you know that also in my personal and professional life, these are some things I have also navigated and still continue in my own marriage. Now, before we kind of dive in here, let me recommend that you listen to my podcast at happiermarriagesecrets.com. So if you go to happiermarriagesecrets.com/podcast, or even click the menu there, you will go right to all the episodes that I do in my podcast. And if you want to read the blogs that I have written as well, you can go there and read those blogs as well. And you can always engage with us once you go there. Now, at the end of this video, I'll share with you how to get a free ebook on the topic of 5 secrets to your happier marriage, the marriage you've always wanted and so deserve. So let's dive into today's topic, the 5 proven ways to solve problems with your spouse. Now, the first thing I have here on the list of 5 is to create a safe space to communicate openly and honestly, right? You want to be able to create a safe place, a safe space for this kind of conversation, dialogue to take place. Because what happened is, if you're going to share honestly and openly, you want to feel as if your spouse is going to allow you the opportunity to do that. And you got to feel confident enough that that space is safe enough to open up, or else you're not going to open up. And that's what I find In many couples relationships, they don't feel safe enough and they can't trust the environment to be honest, and so the relationship is being robbed of true authenticity, and you cannot experience the fullness of your marriage if you don't have a safe space to have this conversation. So that's the first thing. The second proven ways that I believe to solve problems with your spouse is to practice to seek to understand, right? You've got to learn how to seek to understand. Is it so important? I'm sorry, let me get before I get ahead of myself here. Number two is identifying the underlying issues and concerns. Underlying, sorry, identifying the underlying issues and concerns that you have and your spouse have. Because see, it's important to know that if you're going to fix something, you got to know what to fix, right? If you're going to find a solution for a problem, you got to know what the problem is to find a solution. And that's a very, that goes without saying. So we've got to figure out what are the underlying issues. What are the things that you're concerned about or your spouse is concerned about that you can have because you've created a safe space. You can come in and share what those are. And you're simply saying, here are my concerns. Here are the issues that I have. And this is so critical because what happened is in these moments is where sometimes people can go, things can go off the rail, right? They derail so quickly. Why? Because it's sometimes if it's not a safe environment, there are bullets firing all over, right? And I don't mean that literally, but it's the finger pointing, it's the accusations, it's the blame, and all those things are not helpful. That's more problem talk than solution talk. So what happened is you want to be able to have a safe space, but then have to figure out what are the issues at hand. What are the concerns that I'm having? You've got to be clear on that. And your spouse has to also be clear on that so that you can actually identify and hear and work on that. Because if you don't know where you're going, you won't know when you get there, right? If you don't know where you're going, you won't know when you get there. And that's why having identified the issues and concerns, you now know where you're going. And when you get there, you'll know it, right? That is so important. Number three, now for number three is to seek to understand. This is so important. We would call that active listening, is where you have to lean in and make certain you try to understand your spouse. He or she needs to see and hear that you're trying to understand, right? It's not just to simply nod your head and say, I understand. That is part of it, but that's a small part. Your spouse, your partner wants to know that you truly are understanding them. And that's why the active listening is so important. So you can reflect back what it is you're hearing so that your spouse can say, okay, at least I feel like I think you're trying to listen and trying to understand me, which makes them feel more secure, feel understood, and feel better about the relationship, right? And that's why it's so important to seek to understand. Number four is look for areas of agreement. Here's the thing, my friend. You will not agree on everything. I want you to get that up front. Because if you both agreed on everything, one of you is irrelevant, right? You don't need two of you if you agreed on everything. Why would you need somebody who is a copy version of you? You want somebody who is able to challenge your thought process or have another perspective, because that is what's going to help you have a better way to solve a problem, but also see other sides that you may not have seen because you have and I have that one dimensional. We're looking through our own eyes and we're always going to see what we've always seen unless somebody shows us something different. And that's why it is important that you seek to you look for not only seek to understand, but look for areas of agreement. So many couples focus on areas of disagreement. That you ask them what you don't want, they'll tell you. You ask them what you disagree on, they'll tell you. But you ask them, is there an area that you agree on? Because there's got to be at least one, right? Whether it's in the spiritual segment or physical or mental or emotional or relational, there's got to be something you agree on, right? But what happened is when you're in the moment, you just throw that out the window and think that we hear statements like when couples come to me for counseling sometimes or coaching, they'll say, you know, number one, we don't agree on anything. We don't agree on anything. We don't see eye to eye. I'm simply saying, how accurate is that? Is that true that you don't agree on nothing at all? What you eat, what bed to sleep in, what to buy? Sometimes, not everything, but some things. You've got to agree on at least one thing. Right? And so you want to find an area of agreement because what happened is it establishes a starting point. If you were able to agree on that, the question is, can you agree on one more thing or something else? And this is where a safe space is so important because you want to walk this through and hash this out. And so make sure you look for common ground or find areas of agreement. And the fifth way, you've got to be open to negotiation and finding a solution. You've got to be able to say, you know what? It's not all my way. Everything I see is not necessarily right. So as you're open to negotiation, you're simply inviting your spouse into the space with you to say, let us talk through what we agree upon. Let us see what we could find a way to agree if we negotiate where you won't get all that you want. I won't get all that I want. That's negotiation. But what happened is the marriage will get all that it needs. How can we do that? And that's why it's so important to be open for negotiating and finding a solution that works for everyone involved, not just for you, but also for your spouse, your family, your household. These five areas, my friend, creating a safe space, identifying the underlying issues and concerns, seek to understand, look for areas of agreement, and be open to negotiation and finding solution. I say if you practice these things, then I believe these are the five proven ways to solve problems with your spouse. Now, I'd love to hear from you, and you can always comment on this. What are your thoughts? How many of these are you practicing or have you practiced? Is there one that you need to work more on? Is there anything about what I said today resonated with you that made sense? I'd love to hear. So let's make this a two-way street, a dialogue. So please, if you could, make sure that you comment and also importantly, make sure that you hit that subscribe button. Subscribe to the show, right? And make sure you also hit the notification button so that you can be notified when we have these new videos that go up. So I want you to make sure you subscribe and hit that notification button. Also, my friend, I mentioned about how you can get this free um, ebook that if you go to Kingsley Grant, Kingsley, KINGSLEYGRNT.com/HMS, HMS ebook. And the link will be provided in down below so you can actually be able to get to the podcast, the blog, and the ebook. You go to KingsleyGrant.com/HMS ebook. Happier Marriage Secret is HMS ebook. You'll get an access to get this free download of this ebook. Okay. So, my friend, thank you so much for taking the time to watch and to listen. Please share this with at least one other spouse, one other person, and that you know could be helped by this. And also make sure you watch the other videos that I've done as well. Thank you, my friend, for being here and leaving a comment. I appreciate that. And until next time, may I say to you, may God bless you and your household. May His peace rest upon you and you and yours and your family. This is my prayer for you. God bless you, and I'll see you on the next episode. Okay? Blessings.